All right, everybody, what is going on? It is the Truth Told here, and tonight we have a very special guest, somebody who has been on many times with me in the past when I did a lot of Bigfoot stuff. Met him through Jesse at the National Cryptid Society. So tonight we have author Denver Michaels, and we're gonna touch base on specifically one thing that he recently wrote about on his website, and I thought it was pretty interesting. So, Denver, can you just introduce yourself and then let everybody know, like, exactly what it is you write about and stuff like that?
Well, sure, and thanks for having me on. Yeah, I'm a writer, and I've written several books on cryptozoology, paranormal, basically unexplained type topics.
Right.
Whether it's ghosts or Bigfoot or this or that, I'm into it. So I've written several books about that sort of thing. And my latest book touches on the myths, the legends, the lore behind giants all over the world.
Cool. So, I I guess one question I have is a lot of people are bringing like giants and Nephilim into having to do with the Bible and stuff like that. So giants, Nephilim, are they the same thing? Are they different? How do you differentiate them? If so, what do you
Well,
think?
well, to me, yeah. I mean, I guess I guess it would depend on if you, take some of the Bible's take on it as far as what the Nephilim were. But basically, if you go back in the Bible, and the Bible's pretty vague on it. I mean, there's just a handful of verses really that discuss it. But in the sixth chapter of Genesis, it talks about the sons of God, and and trust me, that interpretation as far as who the sons of God were, I mean, that's hotly debated among different, denominations, and even within, scholars within denominations. But at any rate, the verse kind of goes that the sons of God, mated with human women. And the result were these giants, and so I think that some say that the Nephilim were these ain't fallen angels themselves. Others believe it was the offspring, the giants, and that's kind of where I come down. But you know, besides what the Bible talks about, I mean these giant legends, they're worldwide. It doesn't just begin and end with the Bible.
Yeah, I mean giants, Nephilim, like there's tons and tons of stuff about it, but like you said, it's all huge variations. Sometimes it seems like somebody's um, description or tale or is completely different from the next person, and also that goes from culture to culture. So,
Yeah.
what is your take exactly? You think they're offspring of angels and humans?
Well, I mean, I, I'll just say, and I mean, this is definitely a cop,
Right, right.
kind of a cop out answer. I don't know, but
Yeah, yeah,
whatever angels are, right? And a lot of people would take angels to be, extraterrestrials. Others would take the angels, to be, perhaps like teachers from a more, let's say at the time way back in our prehistory, maybe there was an advanced civilization, on Earth, but at the same time there were these primitive civilizations. So a lot of people think that these stories kind of come from that. Some people would like say Atlantis, going back to Atlantis, that these sons of gods were surviving Atlanteans, that mated with people from more primitive cultures. I mean, the stories are varied, but I mean, to me, I think that the if you look at a lot of the legends, and if you believe that it's possible that extraterrestrials have visited our planet in
Right.
the in our remote past. I mean, I think that that makes a lot of sense and ties it up in a lot of ways.
Well, I for sure believe in extraterrestrials and aliens. Like I for sure believe in all of that. Like the last person I had on my show, she had a huge I don't know what you want to call it. She says that she believes in past lives first off. So and she did something called past life regression where I guess it like unlocks your past lives or helps you figure that out or in some way. And she believes the life right before the one she's currently living, she was actually a dog man.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and then I got to asking like if she remembered anything or this and that. Like, are they from this? Are they a creature of some sort? Like, are they offshoot of Bigfoot or whatever? All the theories that people have come to talk about over the years. And she actually said that no, we're from a different planet. Dogmen come from a different planet, and they like sought refuge here at a time when their planet was in war.
Wow.
So but
Wow.
it was a long time ago, and that's the first time I've ever heard anything like that. And I thought it was pretty neat. It was a new take for me on the topic of
That is a
yeah, on the topic of Dogman. So I thought that was very interesting. So take that for what it
no,
could or
that
could
that
not
is an
be.
interesting take. Yeah, that's wild. I mean, I've heard people speculate that Bigfoot, that Bigfoots might be something extraterrestrial, but I never really heard anybody tie that to Dogman tales before.
Yeah, it was. I've heard tons of the people call it the quote unquote the woo side of Bigfoot and all that
Yeah.
stuff. So I mean, I've heard just like you the stuff that comes down to Bigfoot. All of that stuff exists and has
Hmm.
existed for a long time. People telling those tales, but that's the very first time I ever heard somebody say that in a past life, first of all, they were a dog man, but they also remember that
That's interesting.
they were from a different planet and came here in a time of war. And I was like, oh shit, okay, cool. But so long story short, to answer your question, yes, I believe in extraterrestrials, and I do understand, and that makes sense to me about your take on the Nephilim and the giants. Go ahead.
Well, and if you think about it, like a lot of your giant legends and across cultures, it's not just the Bible. Like if you want, like if your listeners, and a lot of people have heard this stuff, a lot of people haven't. But if you really wanted to expand on the Nephilim and get a little better understanding, like I said, the Bible's pretty vague. There's just a few verses in the 6th chapter of Genesis, but the book of Enoch expands on that a lot, and then you can download PDFs also of books that were part of the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Book of Giants
Heard of
that was
those? Yeah.
found, and it's fragmented, so you kind of the translations are kind of spotty, but it gives a little insight into that, and even the Kebra Nagas, the Ethiopian, it's part of the Ethiopian church's canon, and it gives a little bit more too, and they all kind of match up that it was these these angels that that rebelled. They their job was to kind of watch over mankind, but it seems like these guys just kind of fell for the human women and mated with them, and the offspring were these giants that kind of terrorized people. But so if you try to make some sense of that and extrapolate it out, well, how could an angel, you know, that's kind of always the big question, right? How could an angel like mate and actually father a child with humans. But if you if you were to just substitute the angel for alien, right? Or and when you think of aliens, it doesn't necessarily have to be the little green guys with the big heads. I mean,
Right,
maybe
right.
they're just like us.
Well, let me throw this one on you. Um, okay, so how can angels mate with humans? So I'll get to that point, but in a second. But David and Goliath, are you familiar with that?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so in the Bible, who are David and Goliath?
Well, David is the lowly shepherd boy, and Goliath is the Philistine warrior. The Philistine champion that he's out there kind of heckling the armies of Israel, and David kills him with his slingshot in
Yeah.
the story.
So there, I don't know the account saying, they are they calling him Goliath because he's a champion and he's winning wars and he's doing all this stuff, or are they calling him Goliath because of his size? I don't.
Well, yeah, I mean, to me, yeah, I mean, to me, it's his size because I mean, the Bible, and I mean, I'm not a one of those Bible thumpers out there,
Right.
but it gives very specific measurements. It gives very specific measurements as to how tall he was, how heavy his armor weighed, things like that. And why would you give such specific measurements? Like I think if you take the ancient measurements, or yeah, I can't remember exactly, but I want to say like like his his chainmail was like 125 pounds.
Right.
That's a big boy.
It's
you know
huge. So I didn't come up with this, but I've heard that he is, talks and stuff that they think he was a giant. So
yeah, I
not
mean, yeah,
necessarily,
I
maybe not the
definitely.
biggest giant, but from the accounts they're saying that he is a giant. And I want to say kind of that's truthful. Well, believable, not truthful, I guess. Believable. Um,
Well, I mean, if you look at measurements, I mean, and being using conservative measurements, he was just short of 10 feet tall, and
right.
that's that depends on what cubit you want to use. Being on the conservative end. So I mean, I think he was at least 9, 10 feet tall, depending on, and he could have been much higher, depending on who the author, what cubit that they were really referring to, because there were royal cubits, there were, standard, some of the cubits were more 18 inches long. The royal cubits were closer to 21 inches long. So, you know, conservatively, he was probably like 9'9".
Yeah.
If you
So
believe the story.
yeah. So if you were to believe that and take that to what it was, and like you said, all the accounts of how heavy his armor was and stuff like that. I mean, so it's believable for me that he was, this quote unquote giant. Um, now this, I don't know if you've ever heard this before, how people can, not people, but angels can mate with humans to create offspring. Um, so some believe, I've heard that you have to, an angel, okay, so this goes into possession. So both
Okay.
angels and demons can possess a human. That's how they can walk around on this plane. Other than that, you can't see them because they're spiritual or demonic. So demons have the ability to take and possess a human body and don't have any regression or permission, anything. They're just allowed to take it. Whereas angels can possess human bodies. That's how they can walk on the earth, but you have to accept them. You have to accept that possession. So I've heard that angels will possess human body, but the human will do it willingly. And then that's how they're able to walk on the earth, and that's how they were able to reproduce with humans. If they possess one human and that human says yes, now that angel can be in them as long as they want until that human says no, or something like that. So that I thought was a very interesting thing for somebody to say.
Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't really heard, the demonic type stuff. I've heard before, but as far as an angel, having to actually have consent like that is an interesting thing that I hadn't heard. I just kind of always assumed that they could, take human form, because in a lot of the Bible tales and stuff, they walk around down here, they eat, they so with all of that, I figured, heck, maybe they could just yeah, maybe
Yeah,
maybe they can have sex too, right?
and yeah, and when I hear that, and this thing kind of makes sense to me, is like they're doing all this showing up in human form because they're possessing a human to do so, to
Yeah,
be
I
on
had
this
never thought of that.
plane of existence. So, but whereas demons can go willingly into somebody, you can you don't want to be possessed by a demon, but it'll just take you if it wants you. Whereas
Yeah.
the angels, they have rules. They can't just possess
Okay.
out of, because it's not your free will. That whole idea is we have free will. So an angel has to
Right.
follow the free will. So it has to ask, can we use your body to do what we need to do on earth? And I believe, most Christian or God-fearing people, if an angel came to them and said, I need to use you to do these things, I'm sure they would not get a no.
That's interesting. I hadn't really heard that take before.
Yeah. So to me, that seems, how they can walk the earth. They've shown up in human form. They're mating with
Hmm.
humans because of that. Um, so yeah, I just wanted to blow your mind for a second and just share with you my little
Yeah.
ticket
No,
there.
I mean that's pretty wild, and that's and I've got a book that came out in September, and it's called Giants Men of Renown, and at the end of the book, I kind of kick around some ideas as what are you know what's behind all these tales, and I throw out the extraterrestrial type deal. And like I said, that might be kind of what I lean toward. I don't know. I mean, I'm not gonna arm wrestle anybody over it. It could be any number of things,
Right.
but I did bring up in the later chapter, in the last chapter actually, like, what if it was angels? What if it were angels that are behind it? But there's a lot of other ideas out there too. Some people think it's an ancient hominid, like the Denisovans that could be behind all the legends, things like that. Now there's a lot more down to earth takes out there, but
Right.
when you look at the stories and all the legends from around the world, these I think some of the more for better words, some of the more kooky takes might kind of fit with some of the old legends better.
Yeah, for sure. Um, what I want to ask you specifically, about what you wrote about, the findings in Maryland. But before we get into that, everybody who's here live, thank you very much. Lady in the Woods, she's always with us. Tom, how are you? For all of you who are watching this after the fact, go ahead and make sure you subscribe so that way you can be live with us and ask questions and stuff while we have guests on, and do so. I do have a new thing that I could never do before. You can actually call in now and have discussions live with us. So, Denver, if like somebody could call in and ask you questions and stuff like that. I never had the capabilities of doing that before, and now I do. So I think that's pretty cool. So if anybody wants to call in, 407-906-9128, go ahead and call in and have a discussion with us. That's totally cool. But let's continue. So I specifically read that thing that Jesse posted from the National Cryptid Society about what the findings were in Maryland. So can you sort of break that down and get into that?
Well, I made a post, and I've got a little YouTube channel where I made a video about the Susquehannocks, and these and what I was referring to was John Smith, when he was mapping the Chesapeake, and I guess in 1618, 1620, somewhere around there, at the mouth of the Chesapeake, which would be up in Maryland, real close to the Pennsylvania border. uh he talked about the Susquehannocks and he called them a giant sized people. And, he made a map of the Chesapeake and its tributaries. And, back then maps were, they had all the little artsy stuff. They have, little ships drawn on them and stuff. But anyway, up in the upper right hand corner of the map, he drew a picture of, this really, good sized warrior. And under the caption it says the Susquehannocks, the giant sized people. And he described these as he called them a giant sized people. And the man on his map, and I'm just going to real quick, I'll just read from his words. I'll try not to read too much to bore you all, but it just said, the calf of whose leg was 3/4 of a yard about, and the rest of his limbs so answerable to that proportion. And then he went on to talk about how large his arrows were. He had these large arrows in a quiver, and called them 5/4 of a yard long, his arrows. And he used like arrowheads that were 1.5 inches long. And so I got to thinking about that. You're extrapolating that out. So what you run to, like the National Park Service on their the Chesapeake Trail or whatever, where John Smith was exploring. If you go on their website, they're like, John Smith thought the Susquehannocks were really big, and they were like 1 to 2 inches taller than the average European. But he actually gave a size, like for the biggest guy, the one that he drew on the map size. And he said his calf was 3/4 of a yard long. Well, that's 27 inches.
All right.
I'm 5'10", if I'm talking to a girl, I'm 5'11", whatever, but anyway, if I put the tape measure to the ground all the way up to my knee, 19 inches.
Right.
So think about that. 27, that's a big dude. That's a really big dude. And it's talking about the arrows that he used, 5/4 of a yard long. I mean, that's 45 inches. I mean, if you're any of your listeners that have ever done any bow hunting, I mean, I used to shoot an arrow that was 29 inches long, right? I mean, and, of course, he's not using the compound bows and stuff we use today, but still, that's a big freaking arrow that he's using. It takes a pretty big boy to fling that out there. And he talked about the people as that they had booming voices. I mean, these were big people, and in that area of the world, there's been a lot of those discoveries of up in Maryland along the Top Tank River of 8-foot skeleton, things like that. So, I mean, people can dismiss it if they want, but he's given pretty exact measurements. Why would he do that if they're just a couple inches taller?
Yeah, why go through the trouble, first of all, of writing something down that wasn't going to be truthful, especially if it's something he's never seen and he's an explorer. He's going to write down what he sees, what he finds. I think it's interesting that they say, they said they were only a couple inches bigger than modern, whatever they said. That's interesting that if in his writings he truly says exact measurements and stuff like that, why wouldn't they just say, like, these people were humongous, these people were huge? It's funny that they would deliberately keep out. I mean, they didn't keep out the fact that he found people here. It's just they kept out the fact of how massive these particular humans were.
Yeah. I mean, like he's just some idiot that, and to me, he's like, did they really even, whoever made that stupid caption or whatever, did they even read what he wrote? Because I mean, he like we're saying there, he gave measurements for the dude that they saw, and a lot of the old explorers. I mean, you see this over and over and over. You know, these explorers, like in the 15, 16, 1700s, talking about these, especially your chiefs and things that they ran into that, 7.5 feet tall, things like that. And they, they're pretty detailed in what they wrote down.
Are they so from are they still finding bones, remains, skeletons, anything like that? Is that still surfacing up all over that you know of to your knowledge from reading, or was that kind of like a one time deal? They found all these skeleton remains.
No, I think that pretty much went away. And unfortunately, where you really get a lot of the reports of the finds came from really a lot of them in the 1800s, particularly later 1800s and even into the 1900s. But a lot of this were just where unfortunately again, where burial mounds and things like that were pillaged. It was these bones and skull skeletons were almost turned into a spectacle and
Right.
things like that. There was no and that's just kind of what went on in the day. So I mean, people weren't really doing anything outside the norm. It was just pretty pretty bad what the norm was. And so no, you don't really hear about that stuff today. And I mean, if there's just not like the digs and stuff. I mean, this was mostly when people were plowing land for new fields. People were, going further out west and things. And,
Finding
I mean,
all
there's
this new
these
stuff. Yeah.
burial mounds everywhere, and people, we're digging them up and, plowing over them essentially.
Yeah, no, that and it's funny because here in Florida, from some leftover stuff that you see in the swamp, sometimes when you go out, you'll see, and they've been marked. People know what they are. They're native burial sites, or they're like native mounds. It's like
Hmm.
some people speculate as to what they are. Some people are very certain, but I always feel like, man, if we just open one, look inside, and see what is really in there, what they really were used for. They're all over Florida, all over. It's
Yeah,
very interesting.
I'm actually in Florida right now, and a few weeks ago, I was up in Crystal River, and there's a big mound. I mean, it's this one mound. I mean, it was huge. It was like, it was as big as, some of the mounds you see like in Ohio and West Virginia. You at least for me, I'm from Virginia. You think of like, Ohio, West Virginia, places like that for your big mounds. But I was shocked at some of these mounds down in Florida, and it's like they're just like everywhere.
They
These
everywhere.
it's crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
and
it's crazy. I
it's a lot of people are like, oh, well, they're for this and they did this, or it's just like where they used to throw their garbage or blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, not all of these can be the one thing, or not all of these can be a specific thing, especially, well, unless we know somebody had to have over time, this whole time, somebody's had to dig in there and see what's going on. Maybe they just don't tell anybody, but, there's no way somebody hasn't
yeah.
been like, screw this, I'm going to see what's in here. Human curiosity, and curiosity killed the cat sometimes, but there's no way we haven't done that. I think it would be interesting to see or know, truthful with my own eyes. I'm very big lately on, let me find out, for myself, or let me go look at that for myself, or let
Well,
me,
yeah. I mean, it's one thing to listen to old tales and what people say, but yeah, it would be great to to know for certain. But all these mounds, and some of the mounds in West Virginia and Ohio that I'm talking about. The reports go back when they were opened up that it seems to me like a lot of them at least were for like a royal burials, almost like a high ranking chiefs, shamans, that sort of thing, because a lot of times like I can think of one in West Virginia where there's all kinds of skeletons laid out around them, but the central one is like 7.5 feet long, things like that. So it seems like that these big folks were kind of in charge. They were the royalty of the day, and their servants and things like that were sometimes interred with them.
Oh, for sure, and some of that goes back to like even overseas and stuff, to the Great Pyramids, like that. Some of these takes of these, I forgot what they're called, and I don't want to say the wrong thing about their version of the pharaohs, I guess. Some of those were said to be almost, some of them look like weird creatures, like godlike things. But they were all to be massive, and there's accounts of some pharaohs being literal giants, and that just towered over men and towered over these things. So I think that's very interesting as well. Where in Florida are you right now?
Right now, I'm in Port Charlotte. I just rode out that hurricane yesterday.
Yeah, that got...
yeah. Me and the old lady, we back in April, we sold our house in Virginia and everything we owned, and we moved into an RV, and we've just been traveling the country and stuff. So
that's awesome.
So right now I've been in Florida for the last month or so, and right now I'm in Port Charlotte.
That's cool, man. I wish I could gauge where you are for me. It'd be cool to.
Where are you at?
I'm in Claremont right now, Orlando, by Disney.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, shoot, I should have looked you up. I was Claremont about 3 weeks ago. I was there for about a month and a half. Or no, not a month and a half. I'm sorry, a week and a half.
Yeah,
and,
I mean,
I went up to Lake Louise State Park and the Halochi Wildlife Management area. Cause I was like, I went to that wildlife management area because it's like, man, this looks like it's so big. I'm like, this looks like a skunk ape or something could be here.
A lot of my original, a lot of my original videos, and there was one I think I shared with you. You were on, looking at it. I caught some weird stuff on camera on Lake Louisa. I've caught a couple things in Lake Louisa.
Okay.
That spooked me. Yeah, I'm actually.
Well,
I'll be camping out there tomorrow, so we're all going camping tomorrow night in Lake Louisa. So
cool.
It's gonna be a good time.
I was like, man, because just hiking around there and stuff, dude. I'm like, freaking anything could be in these places. I don't care what anybody says, man.
It is huge. The chunks of wildlife that there is between Disney, Claremont, going all like the Point Siena area. There's just chunks and chunks of woods.
Yeah. Well, that's what impressed me. Like when I was up, like I said, I'm from Virginia and living up there, that's what you think about. You think about Florida, you think about, you think about Disney, you think about the Everglades, and then you think about everything being kind of like beach towns and this and that. But as I'm down here, it's like, there's just so much. I mean, there's a lot of development down here, but there's so much protected land.
A lot.
And then a ton of just protected land. I was shocked, and not just like, federal, like state and county. And I was just shocked at how much protected land there is. And I mean, dude, it's like anything could be down in this place, man.
No, it's crazy. And one of my favorite skunk ape videos came from Florida, and it looked legitimate enough to me. And the wild thing is, like, some of these places, like a lot of these protected areas, you can't even hunt in some of these areas that they have sectioned off and stuff. That's how well reserved and preserved some of these places are. So it's there's some, for I almost believe in everything because I feel like I want to believe, and also, there's been a lot of stuff shown to me, and the stories people tell, and the accounts, and some of them are from across the earth, so it's just all of them, some very similar, people not knowing each other is all too coincidental for me. So that's why I feel like some of this stuff is really on and going. But it pertaining to Florida, I'm glad you got to come out here and see all that, because a lot of people just don't know. It's filled with woods, filled.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, and I didn't mean to sidetrack you there, but yeah, I mean, I was just shocked at just all this land, and I when I was up in Claremont, like every day I'd go out to the Halochi and Lake Louise and just hike around, and
Lake Louise is very interesting. I'm glad you got to see.
Yeah,
that
there's
particular
just miles of stuff, and it's like, and you can't get in there to where the stuff would be, unless because it's just so thick and so swampy,
Yep.
I was really impressed with it.
Yeah, I mean, especially in that state park, you'll go through where they section off to hike and stuff, but if you want to go off the beaten path, which I try to do a lot, that's what made me buy my first pair of boots when I started doing this like 4 years ago. And but you gotta transition to water boots. You gotta take water boots out there and be prepared. And there's filled. You go in Lake Louise and to one little path, and you take a right and you go off that beaten path and you go to trek. You're gonna hit just miles of swamp, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
And nobody goes back there because nobody wants to tread through all that. It's all bullshit. Why would you want to do that?
Yeah, exactly.
So to me, that's where the things are living that nobody goes to because they can live there and we can't. It's very interesting. Exactly. Somebody in the comment section, anyone ever checked out Kissimmee? Yeah, I checked out the Kissimmee area, like especially Disney area. There's a lot of woods out there as well. Don't know if I've had any success that I would say I've had over at Lake Louisa, but shorts. I don't know. I can't tell you, yeah, cool, I've seen stuff there, but I can definitely tell you for a fact in Lake Louisa something scared the shit out of me, and that's it. So,
dude, I believe you just from the time I spent there. I totally believe you.
Yeah, it's thanks for believing in me, but it's not good. Sorry if I keep coughing and trying to clear my throat. I'm getting over COVID-19. I caught the ravage beast. So
no.
Yeah,
yeah, my daughter had it a few months ago.
Yeah, it wasn't as bad as the news said it was.
Yeah, that's kind of like what she said. She said it sucked and it I felt like crap, but she's like,
Yeah, for sure.
I'm okay now.
It for sure sucked. There was one night I was trying to sleep and I was like, I couldn't breathe, and I was like, oh shit, this is it. But it turned out that wasn't it. Yeah. So I ended up getting retested a couple days ago because I was over my quarantine time. And they said I'm coming back negative for the virus now. So I guess it's out of my system. So that's why I was like, oh man, we got to go out Friday the 13th, go do some stuff. So we'll probably poke around for a little bit tomorrow, head home. But yeah, that the COVID, when I got it, I was like, oh, this is it. Like, it scared the shit out of me because the news is like, you're gonna die, this is it. And I'm like, oh god.
Yeah.
But it definitely, like, yeah, you said, like your daughter said, it sucked, but it wasn't dead sucked, which worked out for me. So
yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So what is the next process for you now that you're traveling and everything? You taking more time to write, more time to like, what's your next project that you're gonna want to touch base into? And then I got one more question about the stuff in Maryland. Okay,
yeah. I mean, for me, now that we're traveling full time, we have a lot of we have a lot of down days. Of course, we do a lot of sightseeing. Like I told you, I was out doing a lot of hiking, but like the kind of middle of nowhere type stuff. Where I'm looking for you know skunk ape, cryptid type things. But
Right.
I have a lot of those down days where I'm just focusing on writing, and I've got a book coming out in the spring. From back in Virginia about some of the strange tales, and it's actually called Strange Tales from Virginia's Mountains, and kind of goes over everything from cryptid sightings, your black cats, your mountain lion sightings, Bigfoot sightings, all the way to tales of buried and lost treasure, a couple ghost stories thrown in, that sort of thing. And, so I'm always staying busy with those kind of projects. And, with traveling full time, there's always, just always running into unexpected stuff, that you wouldn't think. You're out sightseeing and you learn about a place that's supposedly haunted, and then I'll just get on all these rabbit trails of looking into stuff like that. But yeah, for now, man, we're just kind of seeing what's out there. We're going back home to Virginia in December, so we'll be home for Christmas, and then from there we're gonna go west for a while.
Cool. That sounds interesting. I always wondered how you were able to. It seems like before you just like took trips to these places and got to explore and talk to people, and I was like, man, how's he doing that? That seems pretty cool. So it's very
Well,
interesting.
I mean, back then it was just like on weekends or taking time, But now, we ditched the house, bought an RV, and we're just doing it.
Yeah, I was very interested when you first came on, and I saw the background behind you, and I was like, that doesn't look like his normal room that he came on and did the show with. So I was wondering what the deal is with that, but that's pretty cool. Um, I wanted to bring up one more thing before we, kind of wrapped up and concluded. So when you were talking about when he was discovering, he was writing down the exact measurements and stuff of these, these giants that he was coming across, and their bows and arrows and stuff like that. It was there any description of, was it the entire village or these entire group of people were all that size?
Well, from what I can gather through his writings, it's the people themselves. He called them a giant-like people, so that they all were big. The biggest man was the one that I gave you the measurements for.
Right.
And so in his writings he talked about the man on the map, which I was talking about the map that he drew of the Chesapeake and its tributaries, and up in the right hand corner is this picture of a Native American, and of course the drawing's a little anglicized, like they did back then. But at any rate, it said that he was the biggest of them. So it seems as if like everybody's not 8 feet tall, but they're all pretty darn big, compared to what John Smith was used to.
Yeah, I was just interested in that because, say, if the entire group of them, or tribe, or whatever the correct term for that specific group of people would be,
Yeah.
if they were all, that size, how would that happen? Or and if we go along the path of, giants and that are, it's like, giants are at that point meeting up with each other, procreating, making more giants, and eventually a village of these people come about. So that was a
Well,
thing that tickled my mind.
what it seemed like, and if you go through a lot of the old, and I have a lot of this in my book about some of the, the explorers, be it John Smith or the Spanish, what you see is, it's usually, like the people in the tribe, are taller than the Europeans, but it's the chiefs. It's the shaman, it's the chiefs, it's your some of your leadership of the warriors and things that are really the biggest of them. And I could recommend a good book to people out there if they'd like to learn more of that. It's by Ross Hamilton, and it's called a Tradition of Giants, and you can download a free PDF on academia.com. And he talks about how there was this elite bloodline that was preserved. In the same way that you see like your European royalty, they intermarry and that sort of thing.
Right.
And it seems like in ancient America that that something similar may have been going on. And the people at the upper echelon of society back then were 7 feet tall, sort of thing. And by intermarrying with one another, they kept this bloodline together. That doesn't mean that every Native American in a given tribe was 7 feet tall.
Of course.
If that makes sense.
No, it seems like for some way, one way or another, these giant people were gotten to be the head of these people, and it would make sense that they carried that bloodline somehow. And all the chiefs from then on, or all the shamans or whatever, were just the most giant, biggest people, because that's their blood would just happen to be, that's what they were producing in their offspring that way. So that's a very logical answer, actually. So that.
And that's like what you find, the mound sites with these giant burials. And I mean, like, it always puzzled me, why would they go through all these trouble building these big mounds and everything? I mean, these baskets and baskets of dirt for months and years at a time, but it's because that these, the people buried in some of these things were of such, enormous stature and, legendary, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. And that gets me thinking, how illegal is it to just take a shovel and go into one of these things? Because I've been out. Oh yeah, I've been out to some places where I go, man, I could really open this up. Nobody would ever know. But like, also, do I open up and like, do I get cursed, or do I open up and see something I don't want to see?
Yeah,
like,
I would worry more about that.
Yeah. So.
Bad karma.
Bad juju for the rest of forever. Go passed down through all my generations. It would suck. Where do you want people to find out the most about you? How do they follow you? What do you want, for them to get a hold of you for books and stuff you've written and stuff like that? I'm going to put all your links that I know of and have down below, but where's the best place to reach out to you? Best place to, where do you want people to go?
You can go to denvermichaels.net, and you can find blog there. There are links to my books, things like that. You can go to Amazon. I'm on Facebook, author Denver Michaels, but Twitter is I'm more active. So and I've got a little YouTube channel that I don't really do a whole lot there, but I've got some videos up on YouTube. Just look for author Denver Michaels.
Perfect. Yeah. So I guess what after we get off here, because I have some of your links, but I definitely don't have all of your links, like your Twitter and your YouTube and stuff like that. I didn't even know the YouTube existed until I looked at your website a couple weeks ago. So after this, just send me all your links, and I'll put them all in the description of this video, so I can go ahead and put that down. Cool. Stay, if you could, for like, excuse me, we'll wrap this up for everybody who's watching and stuff, but stay on for me real quick after this, and after we end the show, just so that I have a couple more questions I want to run by you. Other than that, I really appreciate you coming on the show tonight, man. I know it's been a long time and it's been a while, but it's cool to have you back on.
It's always good to be with you, man. I always enjoy coming on, so thanks for having me.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And everybody, like I said, If you've been here from the jump, from the beginning, thank you very much. If you are part of the subscriber base that's growing a lot, we're almost at 4,000. We could have been way more a long time ago, but as you guys know, I took a little break, so I needed that, but I'm glad to be back and doing it, and the passion is back and stuff, and that's all very important. So thank you guys, and if you'd like to support the show, there's stuff in the link in the description to support all this new stuff. A lot of it's just, you can buy stuff with the logo on it, shirts, jackets, stuff like that, and a couple of you have, and I think that's awesome. So thank you guys so much. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button, subscribe on Facebook. It's just The Truth Told. And I can't thank you guys enough. So I'm going to go ahead and end this stream. And everybody else, again, thank you so much. Denver, again, thank you so much. Remember to stick around. And until then, and until next time, everybody, this is The Truth Told. And I'm glad you enjoyed, and I'm glad you came. And that's it. All right. See you guys later.